Go ahead and call the meeting order at 6:31. Our agenda, I love the agenda item number 2. Number 1 is just me calling the meeting order. It's like getting something done right off the bat. So agenda item number 2 is public comments. So we got 15 minutes. If there's anybody that wants to say anything, come right up. All right, seeing no public comments? Good. All right, we'll move on to number 3, agenda review. Anything to add, subtract, multiply, divide?
Thanks for the reminder. We have 2 consent items, and then we do need non-public under small letter C.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to number 4, minutes of previous meetings. We've got September 6th and September 20th. We can take them together or apart if people have corrections, whatever you guys like. Well, that's because I'm looking at the wrong agenda. That's why.
I didn't do it all the way. I'll make a motion to approve October 4, 2022 minutes.
Second.
Okay, discussions? Can you give us a synopsis so that we can...
Non-substantive typos. I'll amend my motion to approve the 10/4/2022 minutes as corrected.
And I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? All right, and 10/18.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Questions. Proposed trust items. It says $7,000 vehicle replacement. It says based off of a couple of years. Is that past? It isn't clear. I was looking this way. You should just look at. Yeah.
So the $7,000 is based off of $4,000 allocated for the pickup truck and $3,000 allocated for the school district van. And that's based off of a $30,000 allotment for the van and a $40,000 allotment for the truck. At the time, I think maybe what was trying to be said is we probably will have to bump that up in the years to come due to the times we're in.
Thanks.
In talking about school building capital reserve fund, it says the big spike is really the track. You're talking about the PA track, correct? It was those 2.
I'll amend the motion to approve the 10/18 minutes as corrected.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And I'm an abstention, Sandy. Okay, so we will move on to number 5, board reports. We don't have a student senate rep tonight. Oh, fantastic.
Okay, so our student Senate representative will be Jake Demers. He's a junior. regretfully couldn't make it tonight. He is supporting the Pembroke girls soccer team at their semifinal game. Some of the updates he wanted me to share. The Senate is currently doing a constitution review and revisions. Members of the Senate have been revising the Constitution in its entirety. By doing so, the students are trying to ensure that each and every article is written clearly. The Senate officers made comments that highlighted phrases within particular articles. These phrases were either vaguely explained or didn't necessarily make sense. Then they are following that up with revising those highlighted articles with guidance from the officers. They also have 4 committees. Mr. PA, which some of you may remember from a number of years ago, Turkey Decorations, Winter Spirit Week, and Faculty Skit. Mr. PA, we have some senators that are trying to work on finding a solution to the historical Pembroke Academy pageant, and the senators are trying to hold an event that preserves PA traditions that is inclusive towards all. I'll give you more feedback on that when we get a little bit more information. Turkey decorations, we have some senators that are planning an easy and efficient way to conduct the process of hanging fall decorations. Traditionally, the Senate hangs turkeys and fall leaf cutouts throughout the school's main entrance. Each turkey or leaf features a name of a student at the school. The name of every single student that attends PA is included. They also did that at the start of the year with Spartan heads, and then in the spring they do that with flowers. Winter Spirit Week, we have some chosen senators that are brainstorming potential ideas for Winter Spirit Days. The chosen Spirit Days will be utilized during the winter season prior to any important events. And the faculty skit, we have some senators that are planning a faculty skit. They have already put together a list of faculty members that may be interested in taking on roles, and they are currently working on a plot line. The potential date for the skit is the 22nd of March, but because of some variables, it is still undecided. A lot of variables. So we'll see.
We can get them to come redo this at a meeting. Cool. Thank you. And thanks to Jake for preparing that. Sure thing.
To applaud the Senate for working on the inclusivity associated with the historical vestiges of Mr. PA. I think that's a great endeavor.
I'm sure he'll give you more information.
Maybe if we can clear it with Mr. Coughlin, we could just get live turkeys.
We're going to have a discussion.
All right. Any other comments about that? All right. We'll move on to Mr. Coughlin.
Good evening. We officially signed off on the library project, so I know it kind of dragged on for quite a bit. But as you can see, it's come out pretty nice. So thank you to everybody that was involved, specifically the librarian, Chrissy Smith, and Julie Quisnell, who's the IT integrator here at P. We recently completed our 2-year inspection of our boiler room, specifically our boilers with Travelers Insurance, who is the sub for Primex. They come and inspect our boilers every 2 years. You're starting to hear often these companies, they just show up, we open the door, we show them what we got. So all went well on our boiler inspections. We're good for the next 2 years, except for the gas boilers here at Pembroke Academy, which we did not re-up because we're very close to starting that Honeywell project. So that did not make sense to re-up those for the next 2 years. And then lastly, we have had 2 walkthroughs at the Hill School with LBA. We've had the site engineers, et cetera, in the building and on the premises to check out everything. So they're hard at work. We met with them tonight for our second Hill School committee, and they're busy putting everything together for us.
Thank you very much. Questions for Josh? Okay. We'll move on to principals, and I suppose we can start with Ms. Gary this time.
Hello. Okay. So we're moving along right now. We had a lot of the same things that we're working on right now as far as our academics and working through our intervention cycles and getting those up and running with some of the providers that we've been able to bring into the building through the CARES or the ESSER funds, which has been really great. We're very happy that we have them in the building and we have some great people. We had another one of our assemblies on Friday, and those are always very fun. There's a lot of dancing. The kids came in with their costumes, and it was a great time. It's a chance for the staff and the kids to get together and have fun and just dance, and then it kind of will radiate for the rest of the month, and then we're ready for another one. So I don't know what they're going to come up with next month. It's always exciting to see. But we do have a team that will meet to put that together, so I'm very thankful for that. One of the things that we're working on in the building is Handwriting Without Tears, which is a program to address specifically handwriting instruction K4. That's something that our staff went training on our last PD day, and then we're about ready to follow up with that work in our faculty meetings to look at data, and we collect that. So they do screeners and look at how the students are progressing. I know it sounds like it's handwriting, but it's really fine motor skills. And because of COVID and the way things are with kiddos, a lot of them are on screens and technology. It's something that we really need to kind of really look at with explicit instruction. So that's been one of the initiatives this year as far as that, along with our interventions. But other than that, the kids are hard at work and the staff is hard at work. So every day it's definitely interesting. The day after Halloween, it was fun today. We had a lot of candy coming in the building, but the kids had a good time yesterday. So I guess we'll see what tomorrow brings.
Thanks. Questions about Hill?
I read the very last line of the very last reminder about all of the rules associated with wearing the costumes on Friday. And I was so excited about it because it basically said, like, if everybody does good and follows the rules, we hope to make this an annual tradition. And I hope everybody did, because I couldn't tell you how excited I am as a parent to have the return of my child being able to wear a Halloween costume to school. You know, the absence of that has really been kind of a loss of fun for children at school. So way to go.
They did phenomenal. I was so proud of all the kiddos, and I mean, I think they were excited. So they came in and they followed it, and we really were trying to also make, whoever didn't want to, it was optional. So we had kids that weren't in it, just making it whoever wanted to be a part of it. But they did great. I was really proud of them.
Fantastic. All right, Mr. Marston. And you can be as brief or long as you want.
How much time do you get? Some of the big news at Three Rivers, obviously, is a new office staff change. Janice Bonner, who had been with us for 19 years, kind of broke in with me, a few years ago, and she has taken another job. And with her, she took a tremendous amount of history and how to do things. However, Heather Ferdima, who's been our front of the office receptionist and special ed secretary, is now moved into her position as office manager. And we have spent the last 2 or 3 weeks with a lot of training, but Heather's already off to a great start. We've added Jackie Gagnon, who was a para at Hill School, to be the front of the joint, and she was able to come down and spend some time with us. Thank God, because it's an you don't realize how much it is until you start breaking it down. And so she's off and running, and we've had 2 good days of relatively smooth. Yesterday was a little, oh my God, what's going on? But today was right back to normal. So hopefully nobody will feel that. Cross country boys were runners up in their league, and the girls were champions. The state meet, the girls, I believe, placed second, which is pretty unbelievable, because there's, I forget, like 29 teams that go. I mean, something like that. It's crazy. And the boys, I think, hit 9th. I'm doing that from memory, so apologize. Boys soccer team just played and won, and they play a championship this Thursday, hopefully right out here at PA. Our girls team just lost in a shootout, so that was kind of a bitter pill, but they also had a great season. We also are looking at a lot of data right now. A lot of data is coming in from classrooms and star assessment and those things. We're trying to really start looking at that and seeing which way we need to go with our data. I'll bring in more of that stuff later on, but I think it's important that we really we really got to look more than ever at what is the data telling us. And it's certainly been interesting first blush. Just for your own information, we've had 34 new students this year, and we've had 10 leave. So we're still up 25. We did have a large class leave last year and a little bit smaller come in, but we have more students right now than we did at the end of last year. 7th grade seems to be continually be the place that kind of gets hit. I think we're up to 11 to 12 just in 7th grade new students. I'm not quite sure the second year in a row, maybe third year in a row that we've been. I've got my theories on that, but anyway, student council. We had our first dance Friday night. It was well attended, and it was a middle school dance. So it was kind of cool to see that happen again. I've seen a few in my day, and nothing changed. Not even the music. It's like, come on, we did not play Stairway to Heaven at the end. We did not. We do usually, but we did not. Student council also put on Spirit Week last week. And, we've talked about it. Kids just don't, at this age, just struggle getting into that stuff. So we've kind of talked about, is it the kind of the subject area we're doing? And Disney seemed to be the most popular thing to do, but not a ton of kids are doing it. So we're kind of looking at, maybe some other things to get Spirit back into the building. But, that's also typical middle school. Nobody wants to get out of their lane, so, but that's it.
Awesome. Questions for John? I saw a couple pictures of that dance. Most of them were just a whole bunch of boys sitting in chairs. Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right, Dr. Morris.
Okay, I'm going to try to go lightning round here because a number of things I want to share with you, and I haven't seen you in a while. We had our Red Ribbon Week last week, and we actually partnered with the National Guard, and they did a flyover, and our students wore red, and they were situated on the field as a ribbon, and the helicopter flew over and took pictures, and it came out great. Reports are that our school ribbon looked the best, so there's that. We also, Key Club hosted their haunted house last week, and from what I understand, that was very popular. We have the conclusion of our fall sports season is upon us. The girls' soccer game has started. I have not gotten a score update yet, but I'll let you know if I do. And our Spirit team is competing in the state competition this weekend as well. We are hosting the Army Band next Wednesday. They're going to perform for our chorus and band students. And I got to tell you, I remember when the Army Band came here when I was here, and it was amazing because they can really play. So looking forward to that. Hosted a college fair that was very successful. We also, Scott Thibodeau and Colleen McDonald were fortunate to partner with the state on a grant on a program called Kids Rock. I think I had mentioned it last time. It was a 2-part professional development, and it was teachers were learning how to implement this curriculum where they teach students how to essentially cover contemporary music and do that in a contemporary kind of rock band setting. So our chorus room, our piano lab had a drum set and basses and bass amps and electric guitars and everything, and it was great. And so Scott and Colleen are looking to put that in the program of studies for next year, hoping to, augment their offerings that could help some of our current band students, but also try to pull in some other students that maybe aren't into the symphonic experience. So, and they'll do a great job. Speaking of that, Amy Parkinson is making her triumphant return as the drama club director with Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, and that will commence on November 17th, and we're very excited, and the kids are thrilled to have her back. She does it all. We hosted a flu clinic today, and also today we sent out some information to sending schools for a Pembroke Academy information night for all of our 8th graders who will be coming to us next year. So that is scheduled for December 12th. And with that is also an invitation for them to come to a varsity basketball doubleheader in mid-January. And Freddie will work on acknowledging them at that, and we'll have tickets for them that'll be free. Through all of this, we are still continuing to go through the NEASC experience. We have had a handful of staff members who have gone on collaborative conference visits as visiting team members. And we've received some helpful feedback from them on some things that they've seen that we want to implement and anticipate. But quite frankly, the general theme of all of the feedback is we're in a really good spot. There are things that we should do just to check off, basically quality of life things that will make the visit easier on the visiting team. But in terms of big picture things, we really are in a good spot. I would also just like to share that the Pembroke Academy administration defended their crown for the costume contest this year. We did Toy Story, and Mr. Zamuta's inflatable Buzz Lightyear uniform was the talk of the town. So I have pictures I can show you later. And I just also wanted to give a thank you to everyone, and particularly Patty, for all of her support over the past couple of weeks, because it's been challenging for me, and she's been great.
Thank you very much. Questions for Dan? Okay, moving on. SAU board / exec board.
So we met last Wednesday and approved the SAU budget. I believe the increase was 1.9% over the year before. So I think they equate to like $38,000 in that range right there. But it was passed, and next meeting, I don't know when the next meeting is, sorry. Next week, okay.
All right. And there was a meeting of the renovation committee today.
See if I can read my notes here. So we had a meeting at 4 at Hill School, and I wrote a ton of notes, but they were talking about their existing conditions review, which they started. They've been working on, hope to have wrapped up shortly. They started meetings today with educational visioning, like a 3-hour meeting. Some of the stuff they focused on was, which I found interesting, was just the group that was there, the top 10 things that makes them unique and the top 10 barriers that they're having. And then the other thing they talked about was community engagement. And then I wrote down a bunch of timelines. So they're hoping to have the ed design and concept development done by February of 23, conceptual design by spring of 23. And then January 24, the intent application would be due. And he explained that if that passes the first time, construction could start June of 2025. If we need a second round, construction can still start June of 2025. They did have the architectures and the engineers go through the building as it is. The building is safe. They didn't find any major issues, so that is a good thing. But something he said to be aware of in the reports that we're going to get, like some things that are simple fixes may end up being really big fixes depending on changes with the code, like the most recent building codes. And their next meeting is January 17th at 4 p.m. We have 2 school board meetings, January 3rd and the 17th. And even though the 17th is a work meeting, what they're hoping to do, if we can, is come here and present their reports, maybe towards the beginning of the agenda, and they could give us some information with Wendy on the 17th.
Sounds good.
And that's most of my notes. Sandy may have more, but it was a good meeting.
Question? Yep.
Can I just go back one? I was confused on the last update about there being an SAU meeting next week, because I thought it was a full SAU meeting, and I just wanted to clarify it's an executive committee meeting, right? Okay.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
that's what confused me, because I thought it was area and not SAU. So there's two. 5:30 is the exec board, and 6 is the AREA.
Cool. Thanks. Any questions or comments about the Hill School stuff, renovation committee? Okay. And we don't have budget on the list. I wasn't here last time, so we did have a initial MBC meeting back in October. It was basically a review of CIP. I can't remember when they start up again. We talked about it at the meeting, but I don't think I have an email copy of that schedule, so I'm not sure when the first Thursday is, but it'll be in the next couple of weeks. Tentative plan is the same as usual, that we will present at the last meeting before Christmas, and then we'll have like 4 meetings after the holiday to work on the school stuff. We did get an ask about some COVID stuff, which is on the agenda later today. I was also asked to invite Ms. Gersha. The committee indicated that in times past, she would come once in a while and sort of give the 5,000-foot view of some special ed stuff. There's a lot of special ed things that we can't go into detail about, and I can't give really any details about because I don't know about it. So they asked if she'd come and sort of just do a recap because it's been a few years. So we'll invite her, and that would be after the first of the year. And I guess the other thing to mention is when Mr. Fleury came and talked to us about CIP, he mentioned a few big ticket items that were on the plan for this year. And I'm not sure that this is finalized, but the indication at this last meeting was that 2 of those, one being the sewer connect to Concord, and the other being the $600,000 for the DPW building downtown that's falling off the side of the hill, are not going to be on the warrant this year. So that's a sort of major change to the town side. So I'll bring more information on that when I have it. And I think we're good to move to number 6 if nobody's got questions. All right, you said you had a couple for consent.
A child rearing leave and a bus stop request.
Motion to approve the child rearing request.
Second.
I think if there's discussion on this one, we probably should take it to non-public. So I guess I'll ask, does anybody want to take this discussion to non-public and ask that the motion be tabled? Okay, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Fantastic.
Motion to approve the bus stop request.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion on this one?
I would like to get a little bit more information. Typically, we've not just, automatically approved bus stop requests. Do you have any backup? Or, I mean, I read the request.
No, I think this request was mostly based upon medical need
Okay.
of the child.
And Linda has no objection.
Right.
And she's in favor.
Yep.
And
She brought it forward. It wasn't a parent. Well, I think that she spoke to the parent, but she's fully in support because of the specific needs of the student.
okay, that satisfies me.
All right, then all in favor of approving the bus stop request, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? All right. Gifts and donations? Nope. Okay. So we'll move on to number 8. If it's okay, I should have done this at agenda review, but I'm wondering about rearranging these. I think that B is going to be short, and I'm thinking that C, I'm not sure how long the budget presentations are going to be, but if anything has to drop for our, we have a time limit now. So anyway, I'd like to flip B up to the top if that's okay with you guys. Okay. So to give it a little preface, there is a state dashboard where you can see what COVID funds were allocated to districts, what's been spent, and sort of that type of thing. It was brought up by one of the members of the MBC, and they indicated that they'd want to discuss it at some point. So I asked Patty to sort of give us a little preview now of kind of where we're at, and then we can dive into it more in depth when we get deeper into budget season.
We are very unfortunate in the fact that we did not find an SAU Fund grant manager. So the principals and I have spent a lot of quality time together trying to make this process easier. There were a lot of COVID grant funds. So we're calling them ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. So 3 pots of money. And we have some pretty elaborate spreadsheets to try to talk through the different needs at each building and then come to consensus on, what we're putting in for. So I think Dan started the initial spreadsheet and it just grew from there. I think the first round of COVID funds was released very early on, and that was when we were in panic mode. And it was, Josh, get your hand on as many PPE supplies that you can. Ordered all the signage, so one way in the hallway, 6 feet apart, all of that initial. I call it, when we were in sort of in panic mode. So we got a lot of that stuff with the first one. And the second one, we started kind of adding more staff, stipends for folks, recognizing our COVID coordinators, our nurses, our custodians, our tech staff, not huge stipends, but just trying to acknowledge that work. We started buying a lot of technology pretty early on because we had students home and we needed to get devices into their hands. So our tech folks did an outstanding job getting that all up and running and delivered. And then with the third round, I had shared the survey results with you earlier on. We tried to really focus on student learning. We have one large Honeywell project that you've approved because of one thing that all schools around the state learned was that their HVAC systems, maybe, we were in really good shape thanks to Josh, but we did identify an area that we could improve our air quality. So that's the ESSER 3, one of the significant projects. The others, Wendy just referred to, we have some interventionists that we've hired, and that's been really great because there's never pots of money like that where we can bring in extra OT help and extra speech and behavioral support, social emotional learning, all of those things that are always lacking that we're really thankful to have. So we have gone through the ESSER 1 grant actually closed September 30th. So we spent a lot of time making sure we spent every penny. And if there's anything we could back out of one of the other grants to get into the first grant to make sure we spent that funding, we did that. So we will make use of our funds, and you won't see Pembroke as returning maybe $100. I don't know, but it will be low. So we have still got our spreadsheet going, and we have a few more. We have some more ESSER money. We have until the end of next year for the ESSER 3. So we're actually budgeted all but a couple of $100,000. So we're trying to be careful. The staffing takes up a lot of money. So whatever we have left, we do want to be judicious with. But I will prepare, Andy asked me to prepare something a little bit more detailed for the budget committee so that they can hear about what we've done with our grant funds. So when I do that, I will certainly share it with the board, but wanted to just kind of give you a high view for tonight.
Thank you. Any questions on that? Cool. All right. We will jump into the budget stuff. Just a reminder.
Sorry,
oh,
Andy,
yeah, go
I'm a
ahead.
little slow to respond on the invitation per questions. Can you, or what are you doing? And if attention hasn't been turned to this yet, can you start to turn your attention and tell us the plan for when these funds run out? I know it's great to have all the extra money, but that's a problem when you have all the extra money, is then you sometimes can become reliant on the stream, and then all of a sudden it goes away. And, for example, you have these great interventionists, and there's the need sometimes doesn't just magically disappear when the money does. And so I think it would be wise for us to, have some strategic planning ahead of the disappearance of the funds.
Yeah, thank you for that. We actually just had that conversation this week with the intervention and the math coach position that we lost years ago at Three Rivers. We now have that position for 2 years thanks to COVID funding. That's going to end after the end of next year, and we're going to have to deal with that. There will be items that we have to decide is, are we going to put these in the budget, or are these going to be, hey, we lost the funding and unfortunately we have to let this stuff go, because it is a good chunk of money. So it would have a huge impact on the budget if we tried to move everything into the budget, which we just won't be able to do. But thank you for that.
Okay. As far as the budget stuff tonight, just a quick note. So, due to some staffing issues last year, we got the budget presented in a slightly different way than we had before. We got sort of what we call the building budgets first, and then we got the full budget at our following meeting. And I think at the time, everybody sort of agreed that that was nice because we could sort of focus more on the building stuff. So we're doing it the same way this year. So we'll have the principals tell us about their building budgets tonight, and then at our next meeting, we'll get a first look at the full budget. Oh, rock, paper, scissors. I guess we'll let Dr. Morris go first.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So I just have it's 4 pages, but it won't be too bad. I promise. I just wanted to highlight any, some increases that we have and provide a little bit of context behind these. They are generally in order. So start with 1100s. The first thing I'll mention is, as you may remember, we had a math position that we couldn't fill. And we've come close. We've even scheduled appointments with Patty for final interviews, and then it just doesn't pan out. And that's been the case for a few years now with this position. So there are 2 positions that we are in need of for next year. And we feel like at this point we can use that math position towards one of these 2, hopefully. The 2 positions that we're looking at are an additional Spanish teacher. Our Spanish numbers, it's a good thing, but our Spanish numbers have really grown quite a bit, and particularly our Spanish 1 numbers. And as you can imagine, the next shoe to drop will be Spanish 2, and so on and so forth. And so getting another world language teacher in that position would really be helpful. The other position, and I should mention with both of these that they've put in for these for a few years, for 2 years, and they haven't gotten to this point. So it's been a need that they've expressed, and we're at a point where we probably, at this point, I need to bring it up to you as it's a need. The second is a case manager. We've needed a case manager. There's been an express need for this for a few years, and this year particularly, I've seen some needs with students that have come in, and I think post-COVID too. And so, maybe Karen could speak a little bit more about that, but I just feel like those are 2 positions that I need to at least bring up to the board. So again, we have that math position we haven't filled. Be good for us to transition one of those into that, which would mean that net and 1 additional position to the budget. So moving on, unless anyone has questions, and yeah, please.
Students per case manager.
Students per case manager. I have that. Okay, so the justification, I asked for a justification for these positions. We have our current special ed population is 130, and that's up from 117 last year. And we do have 26 that are listed to graduate as seniors. We have 3 that are receiving transition services. This gets more into where they are, so I don't want to get into that too much. I don't have a ratio for you on this, so. Yes, I believe that is 8. Yep.
Sure that it's an equitable split either, because we
Right.
do have, you would know, we do have special programs. So if someone's running a program, they may
That's
have
right.
case manage those students in their class.
Yeah, we have one that is skills program, one that is an alternative program. And, you know, their days are full. Yeah. Any other questions on that one?
Yeah, concerning the math position, more importantly, well, not more important, but the, I understand the need for these two positions, but that need doesn't go away just because you don't get candidates. So
Right.
how are you handling?
So one of the ways that we felt we could handle that is by, we have a few case managers currently that have some math background and have taught integrated math before. And hopefully if we got a candidate that also had that, then we could work with them on offering math offerings for our special ed population. And that would take away some of the burden for the math. In a perfect world, we'd be able to do that. That would be the hope anyway when we post the position.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay. That's probably the most high leverage one. Substitutes, we just want to increase that line to align with what we've been spending in actuals the past few years. Science supplies, I will say in creating the budget, I noticed that the biggest increases on supplies were in science and in lumber, which kind of reflects our own personal lives too, probably. But the increase is really in terms of prices and shipping across all vendors. They've used, and at the high school level, they are getting things that they're dissecting. They're getting, I mean, these are very specialized vendors that they've used for a long time. Infrastructure, this is a number I got from Josh Berube. We need one server as well as additional access points. English books, if you remember, we didn't have English books funded from the budget last year. So this increase reflects that it is in the budget, but they are also looking to expand their book choices for students that are struggling in reading and provide some other options for them that would be of interest to them. Math books, we want to reinstate our statistics course, and the former set of class textbooks is 10 years old. So.
Sorry, you're doing good on the lightning round pace here. Is the instructional materials trust fund something that can fund English books? Okay, thank you. And math books and science books and yeah, okay, I'm good.
Great. The science, yeah, please.
And is, I mean, math, I guess, changes in the way you teach it, but are these books out of date or in bad condition?
Out of date.
Okay.
Yeah. And with the science books, we need books, are actually the human biolab books. Those are single use, and we have to use the same books that NHTI uses because we have that partnership with them. Continuing on with replacement, this was actually put in last year, and we took it out. They need a classroom set of stools for rooms, and they have high tables, so it's not like there are chairs and stools from other parts of the building that we can bring over there. So they're kind of specialized in that way, and that wasn't something I guess I didn't really appreciate that last year. So, but anyway, it is a need that they have. And in addition to that, so anyway, that was, I don't see it here, but that was to the tune of $4,000 for that classroom set of stools. Table tops for art, as well as some chairs for world language. Thank you. Replacement equipment. There are some machines, some exercise machines in the weight room that need to be replaced. And, the weight room is used by our life studies department, but it's also used by our student athletes quite a bit year round. And that does get a fair amount of use. In addition to that, there is some instrument replacing happening here too. Okay, another high leverage item, the replacement equipment line for computers. This is our Chromebook initiative. It increased. We're asking for the same number of devices. I think the funding for that came from different places last year, and so that increase is reflected by, right now, it's all in the budget. I believe there was Patty, was there a tech trust or something last year that we utilized? Right. So anyway, the increase is because it's, right now, it's all in the budget. Feel free to, interrupt at any moment. New equipment for music, additional steel pans, as well as soprano, saxophone, and alto flute. Those are instruments that are called auxiliary instruments, which are not instruments that a student would typically take up as a sole focus, but it's one of those things that they would take on in addition. It would be similar to like a flute player and a piccolo. So, new equipment for phys ed. That's all listed there. New equipment for science. This goes into some microscopes that are needed, as well as a classroom set for a startup pack. They also are looking for some pieces of equipment called Raspberry Pi, which is I believe it's an AV piece of equipment used for programming. In addition to that, we have 12 toolkits for our pre-engineering class. This is the first year we've run that, and that's actually been really successful. Moving on to the 1200 lines, some additional money for workshop. We found that there are some increasing needs for some training to meet some of our student needs. We want to be able to provide that training for our paraprofessionals and our case managers.
I have a question about this.
Yep.
And I helped negotiate it, but I didn't memorize it. What is if anything, is in the paraprofessional union contract about workshop funding?
We researched that, and there wasn't anything in that contract. There is in the teacher contract,
Okay.
not in the para.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, an increase to special ed books, and part of that is, just getting student books for grade level curriculum to support math and English instruction. Okay, the following lines, these came from Jessica Bickford and Karen Gersha, so I may not have as much contextual information about these. We have an increase to our special ed summer program. It increased by $2,000. Our special ed contracted services, that was a decrease from 144,000 to 84,300.
Better? So I'll say it again. Occupational therapy, speech therapy, behavior specialists from any outside agencies. If students are in placement and need a contracted service that this placement doesn't provide, we would do that. It varies depending on the students in any given year, but it's typically the professional services that come into our building from outside agencies.
So it would be on a smaller basis. It wouldn't be contracting a speech and language pathologist if we needed a full-time or
No,
part-time.
well, it has been in the past. If we aren't able to hire someone, we would contract typically with Booth B.
Yep.
So that would appear there if we were short-staffed and couldn't hire our own staff member, but it's always our first priority to hire our own folks.
Okay.
I have a quick question after on the special education books.
You want to ask it now? Or?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. My only question is, do we have like a process in place? Like, I certainly hope we're not waiting for budget season to approve like books for children on IEPs that
Oh.
should happen right now.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Part of that is, if there isn't money in that line, I can transfer money from a different line, or if it
Okay.
exceeds a certain amount.
So
I
this is
ask
to
you.
supplement what you guys are already.
Right, or
Yep.
anticipating needs for next
Anticipating.
year too.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and sometimes
All right.
they'll, they'll find out, oh, the English department is teaching this course and we've got some struggling readers, so hey, we should order our own set of, whatever
Okay.
novel it is at a
Yep.
lower reading level.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, special ed summer special placements, that was increased from 24,000 to 61,000. Special education special placements, that was an increase from 200,000 to 386,000.
Are those special placements, are those something that you might be looking to the special ed trust for?
I don't know the answer to that.
When we get to budget cuts, so we typically put in the budget what we know that our needs will be. And then I think the past couple of years, that's what we've done. We've said, hey, in order to make a cut, let's cut $100,000 off of the placement line. And then if we need it at the end of the year, we can go to the trust for that. I mean, typically we haven't had to use the trust. We've been able to get by with what we have in the budget.
Okay. I mean, I kind of knew that. I just wanted to get it out there.
Because there's a net of like plus 168,000
Yeah.
on those lines.
Right.
So my question with that, is that just for the high school or out of district placement?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Special education summer transportation, that's an increase from 9,000 to 12,000. I think you'll see that in other parts of the budget, that transportation cost did increase.
Yeah.
Okay. And then special ed transportation went from 126,000 to 193,000. Same thing there. And then the last one for special ed transportation. Let me double check that line because that may be a different title. Let me look. Okay, that last one, sorry, it should be diagnostic services, and that's from 61,000 to 73,000. It's a typo. Any question on any of those other special ed lines? Okay. Yep.
On the special ed transportation, if we could see at some point a breakdown how it's being used, because that's a huge increase, even though, I mean, I know there's transportation increases.
Yeah.
That's a really large increase. So
We can't necessarily give you the breakdown because it's a small population. So what I can just generally tell you is if we have a student placed out of district and it's either a Massachusetts school or one on the other side of the state, that transportation is going to be significantly higher. So it's not just our contract with a special ed bus in general. It's also student specific. And the costs have gone up along with that.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Okay, the last ones I have, just an increase in the supply line for lumber for our wood shop. Lumber's kind of their curriculum. So that's just trying to keep, everything in terms of the unit number the same, but anticipating that cost increase. And then for library books, just increasing that. Let me look at that because I don't believe that's an increase of 10,000. I think that is the final line is 10,000 and it's an increase of 2,500. So let me just double check that quickly. But anyway, that would allow her to work on replacing some of her books that are in circulation because she did some cleaning out, but there are also books of popular titles that I know she's still missing from COVID. So just trying to rebuild that collection too.
I just had a clarifying question. Is it primarily increasing the amount of books or is it replacing meaning,
Yeah.
getting rid of and replacing, or is it really a combo?
It's a combination. With a lot of popular titles, they wear out, and in addition to that, there are new titles, and so she wants to stay current on all of that, but also have a replacement cycle for some of those other books too.
Dan, I found that for you while you were
Yeah.
looking. It's row 912, and the total ask is 10,000. It's up 2,500.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So, sorry about that.
All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
So we'll go to TRS.
Okay, I do not have a handout, so I apologize. I'm not as organized as my buddy. Oh, I can be specific.
John, if you don't have the row number, if you say the account number, I'll quickly find the row number.
I
'cause
don't
it's-
have the row number. I
Yeah,
have
that
the
makes it
account
easier
number.
if I can. So I'll look that up if you just go a little bit slower.
A little bit slow. First one's easy.
Yeah.
001 1100 110 205 000, which is salaries.
Yep.
Oh, that's to, as you know, a few years ago, we cut a 5th grade teacher, and we have, we've kind of spread out kind of the workload. And while that's going okay, just to give you an idea, one of our 5th grade classes is sitting at 22, and it's a math class. And it's interesting that our 5th grade has the highest class population. I mean, not overall, but because it's divided by 4, we now have at least 18 in every class, and they're hitting 20. So when we lost that, we've done this before. I've played this game before, and we lost it a number of years ago. We got it back, and we cut it again, and every time it's like, oh, every time we do it, we're gonna come back and ask for it again. So that's on the table. Yeah.
Mention the salaries aren't here yet. So in 2 weeks, Amber will be filling in all the blanks that aren't filled in. And one of them is that we're still going through the rosters and updating salaries. So she'll populate that when she presents to you in 2 weeks. The salaries are the very first thing in the budget. So
line,
starting on row 14, yep, it's blank, yep.
And I guess I don't know if we've been through this. Maybe we should do a quick. So when you look at the very first 3, right, 14, 15, rows 14, 15, and 16, all look the same. If you look at the 1, 2, 3, 4th set of numbers there, the 10, anything that's 104 through the whole budget is going to be Hill, right? And then anything that's 205 is TRS, and anything that's 306 is PA. So you'll see them all grouped together like that in lots of places.
The first 3 digits are 001. It's your Fund 1 budget. The second set, so the 1100s are all regular education. So you'll see them also grouped by the second set of numbers. And then 1200s are always special education. So as we go, that's also a little hint. We usually say just like 1100, 110, because that's the salary line.
We cheat. We can just see our numbers. So we're now working off this, and it's it's a little bit of a mind bender. 1100, 112, 205, 000, which is our subs. We had cut that back significantly last year, basically due to the lack of subs. Well, the good news is we have subs, and so we look to increase that just because of the availability, and we may blow that out of the water. I don't know, but we just needed to increase that. 1100, 610, 205, 000, which is general supplies.
Hold on.
Yep.
Can we please do what Patty suggested, which is you go a little bit slower and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
she gives us the, line
absolutely.
116 or
Yeah, yeah.
thank you.
General supplies, Patty.
Yep.
610.
That is row 121.
I'm sorry. 1100, 610, 205, 000. Is general supplies. It's an increase of $3,000. I can tell you right now, we are going through, it is the increase. We are just really going. Paper is, I just got 3 quotes on paper, and the cheapest we can find is like $45 to $48 a case. You know, it's just we're all dealing with it. Infrastructure, which is 1100 612 205 055.
185.
Not unlike PA, that is a replacement server and additional access points. Came from the tech department. Next is 1100. Lost my place. 1100 737 205 000, which is a replacement furniture. I've been trying to get more replacement furniture for a while. To give you an idea, with teacher desks, I have teacher desks that we brought from the village school when we moved into Three Rivers. Three Rivers is now 30 years old. So I'm slowly pecking away at it. But I've still got a dozen or so, you know, and a teacher desk is, you know, not cheap. Plus any other classroom furniture that we need to replace that gets broken, things of that nature. Then next would be 1100 738 205 055. It's computer replacement.
310.
That's an increase of 5,000 from last year. So it's basically the 4th year of a 4-year plan. It's replacing, you know, technology in the building. It's not adding; it's replacing. You know, we do have a 1-to-1. We don't send the equipment home, but they get used hard. We want to be able to keep up with that.
I have a question on that one. Love long-term planning, but does that mean if this is the 4th year of a 4-year plan, you know, what's then the year after next year? Is that like starting again at year 1? So it would be like a similar type expense, or does that mean like no money expended because we finished the 4-year plan and we can like do nothing for a little while?
No, we're not going to do nothing for a little while. It's really just finishing out a plan. And to be honestly, the plan got blown up because of COVID. And so we're really trying to, typically this would have been a much bigger number, to be honest with you, a significantly bigger number. And we've been able to reduce that because of COVID. However, you know, we have 325 kids using Chromebooks every day. You know, one of the reasons we don't send them home is because they don't come back. And if they do, sometimes they're pretty beat up, particularly in middle school. So we're really trying to, you know, we got a pretty good system working, but we still spend a lot of time and energy repairing. I mean, sometimes you can't repair them anymore, and it, you know, it doesn't take long to go through that. That's just the Chromebooks. We've also got a bunch of equipment for staff to be able to teach. So
I think it's worth noting on that one too, and John just said it, but it is Chromebooks, and it's something that I'll make sure to say when the public hearings and stuff coming around. A Chromebook is not a laptop. You know, if you've bought one for your kid at home, you know, it's $150, $200 device, and it is not something that you're going to get 8 or 9 years out of, even at home with a responsible child. So, I mean, stretching them to 4 years is pretty good. I mean, these are not durable, well-supported devices. So.
A little bit. The intention when Josh, for those of you who've been on the board for a while, when Josh Berube came, he did a great plan for a 4-year replacement cycle, and we were trying to do 25% of our machines every year, so it was a nice stable number. But now, like John said, some years all of a sudden we have all this new technology over 3 years of COVID that we're expecting 1 year that this is going to be a huge number, and this year we didn't have to replace as many because we got all kinds of new computers with the grant. So it is, unfortunately, it's going to fluctuate, and tech department is working really hard to try to come up with a new replacement cycle so that we have a good plan, but that's going to take some time because they have a lot of machines.
I mean, honestly, I'd recommend trying to put some money into some kind of fund, you know, because I think, well, I don't think, I know that, you know, a couple of televisions go and, you know, you're $5,000, you know, and so I think having that backup would be really good.
Them televisions, they're touch screen.
Touchscreen.
Yeah. Everybody thinks we have like large scale
Well,
TVs in
right.
all of our
I
classrooms.
call them.
They replaced the
I'm old.
whiteboards, so just so everyone
yeah,
knows.
They're projection TV. Yeah. TV's easier. Learning panels. There you go. Yeah. Okay, the next one would be 1112. Well, I'm sorry, 1200, 114, 205, which is those are paraprofessional. I think it's listed as
In the 406.
8 salaries.
And the salaries aren't in there yet, but
Correct. I'm looking to add a couple more paras, as difficult it is to find. Not unlike PA, we are over 70 identified students in the building now. It's the highest I can remember. And trying to meet those needs, as well as we can. We're doing it, but the anticipation is that number is not going to go down. So I think we have to be thoughtful in what we're doing in the building. The next one is another special ed, 1200, 115, 205, 000. Summer
that's
programming.
410.
That's a small increase. It's a summer programming from 7,000 to 9,500, so a $2,500 increase. The next one should be right below that, which is 1,200, 323, 205, 000 contracted services. Put that in
Hold
because
on one
there's
second. 328. Yep, 443.
because that looks like good news. Last year we did 239 and change, and projected is 115, decrease 124,000. Next one is 1,200, 569, 205, 000. Another special ed, but those are placements. We had been
473.
we had done 183,000, and we're moving to 314,000. I think on the budget it's coded. There's a color coding that's, I guess that, what is that, mustard, orange, and it says the decrease. I don't think that's a decrease. Wrong color.
So while we can't talk about specifics, you could probably draw your own conclusions if you go back to contracted services and see that that number is down pretty much the same as our placements increased. So a contracted service is typically having an agency come into your building, whereas a placement is when students need to attend a different school for their services.
Ask a quick question without specifics, just a quick general question. And I'm not going to pretend to be an expert whatsoever. I am not.
You are, though.
And I know that, and I do know that we have great special ed staff, but have we ever thought about bringing in an inclusion specialist to see if we can cut down on some of these out of district placements with these kids leaving our district?
We had an inclusion facilitator for years. So we cut that position, I don't remember. It's been a number of years now. But with the addition, so Jessica Bickford, you met her. She's going to be taking Karen's place when she retires. She's actually visiting each of our buildings. And this was something that was on her radar, is like, our numbers are up. So let's take a look at that. And, sometimes there are extenuating circumstances that it's just not, if it's a safety issue or, but she does want to take a look at that. And she is going to each of our schools.
Okay.
So there are eyes on it. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's so important to note that the costs have increased significantly. What hasn't, right?
Is the cost increase of services a point of information, or does that make it, more justifiable to have a staff person whose focus is inclusivity again, or both?
I want to hear from Jessica once she goes to all of our schools, but just knowing, I try to keep kind of updated with what's going on. And I think some of it is just the nature of the times and the severity of the issues that our students are dealing with. I'm anxious to kind of hear a report out, but when I do ask when a student leaves our district, I want to know, why are we not servicing this student? So I know that some of the newer placements have been pretty, we've done everything we possibly can before we don't want any of our students to leave our building. So people have been bending over backwards to prevent that from happening. So I don't think that's going to be the outcome, but I'm certainly open to it if it is.
Another one is a special ed. It's 1200 641 205 031. I think we haven't had anything in that line for a while. This is an intervention kit, and quite honestly, we're looking at some other options. But we felt like the need, I think you're going to hear from all principals, the need for materials of kids that are significantly below grade level. And I don't like, grade level is not accurate. I'm sorry, it just really isn't all that accurate, but that's what people understand. Significantly below, we just, we need resources, to help all of what's going on. But there are a couple other options I'm looking into, but I felt like I needed to get that in there if I couldn't get that other option. And then 1410 110 205 000. This is more of an explanation.
Hold on one second.
Yep.
1410
1410.
110 658.
Those are co-curricular. We would like to remove spirit and move it to another line, which is other assignments, other assignment stipends, I think it's called. And I can explain it I guess I can explain it, it doesn't really matter. We want to move that because spirit, we've been really struggling over the years to sustain. It doesn't make a lot of sense to try to keep something that we're not getting. It's hard to get coaches and kids, et cetera, et cetera. So we do have a need. We have an after-school supervisor. This is going to be a long way to get to a short end, I guess. But we have a after-school supervisor for athletics and co-curriculars. We'd like to combine that stipend with the cheerleading stipend and have somebody take over the athletic duties as an extra stipend. Right now, it's being done out of assistant principal's office. It's a lot of time, and it needs to be. A lot of schools have that separated out, and so it would be a stipend. We feel that stipend, I think, would be about $4,600. Would be for the school year, and to schedule all the games, supervise the games, get all the officials, do all the transportation, do all the eligibility, hire the coaches. There's a lot, and it's busy. And we felt like it's time to separate that. It used to be separated, to be honest with you, and we moved it into that position, and I think it's time to separate it again. So you'll see an increase in another line, but at the end of it, there's no increase. We're just moving it around. Next line would be 1410 to 21 20500. 1410 321 205 000.
664.
Did I get the right one there? That's the trainer. I think in the budget it says $5,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
That will be coming out. We do not use the trainer.
How long has that been in, and how long have we not used the trainer?
I don't know how. It hasn't been in very long. Okay. Couple years.
I know it all washes out in the end, but
yep.
Okay.
But we put some of the athletic trainer salary in and earmark some of it for Three Rivers, thinking that person may need to come over or participate more at the middle school level, and it hasn't happened. So we're just going to move it out of there.
The next would be 21, 23, 330, 205, 000, diagnostic services. Now, just pointing out that's an increase of 7,000 from 175 to 182. Yeah. All right. The next is 2213, 641, 205, 000. 641. They're staff books, staff reads. This is really for staff development. Oh, I'm sorry.
872.
This is for staff development for staff. As you know, we've been doing thoughtful classroom, and we have purchased books for them, and it's been very successful. I'd like to be able to continue to do that. Be able, and as you know, books aren't all that cheap, particularly that type of text, but it's been very successful. I'd like to be able to continue to do that for staff. The next line is 2490, 114, 205, 000. And that is, I forget the
Hold
name
on.
of it,
2490, 215.
114. 2490, 114, 205.
1109.
You'll see an increase of I believe it's $2,400. That is the cheerleading stipend that was moved from the other line down to this line so that we can add the stipend of the school supervisor in spirit to come up with an athletic director. The notes do need to have not been in there to reflect that. So there's, in effect, there's no increase, just moving and changing some titles. And I think the last one is 2725, 519, 205, 000.
And 28.
So again, that's field trips. You've seen this before. I do feel relatively strongly that if we are supporting educational field trips, and we are saying we're going to give and have these kids spend a week outside of school, that we should support it somehow. This is not a lot considering the total amount of money that we're talking. This would help a little bit with transportation. So what I have is $2,000 for the 6th grade trip and $5,000 for 8th grade trip. And we've always had kind of $1,000 per grade level. So that comes to $11,000. We have not been successful with this over the few years, and we keep cutting it out, but I keep bringing it back. Yeah, it's $1,000 for per grade level for field trips, just general field trips. Then there's $2,000 for the 6th grade trip and $5,000 for the 8th grade trip. Specifically trying to target some of the transportation costs. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's it.
Okay, any questions?
For me, it's easier if you just use the middle numbers. So if you say like 1100, 114.
I think I have the row number. I went through and so hopefully it all matches, but we'll try
Thank
that. If
you.
it doesn't, I know I was coding it over here as we were doing it. So we'll start off on row 21, which should be substitute salaries. Does that match the one you guys have?
Yep.
Okay. Same thing kind of that John mentioned. We are able to get substitutes. So if you look, we're kind of on par with what we spent last year, kind of looking at it this year. So that was that increase as well. 1100, 112, 104. Okay. 1100, 112. Yep. The next line is number 67, 1100, 431. That should be maintenance contracts. That's just an increase in our overages and toner costs that we anticipate coming in. We did a print study last year, but it's also a challenging year to do a print study. So we're kind of working through that right now. And we're monitoring it, which is great because we use paper cut. So I get reports, and so we're monitoring it. So we have an ability to manage that. The next line is 96, general supplies, 1100, 610. Again, this is just the general supply budget. As John mentioned, prices of everything are going up. So that's an increase there to make sure that we have all the necessary basic supplies. We do supply a lot for staff as well, or things that come up throughout the year. That gives us that chance to support the classrooms or needs. Next line is 102. If you need me to slow down, just let me know. This one is supplies math. It's 1100, 610, 104. Okay. One of the things you can see kind of a significant increase to this one. We are really through the work we're doing with our data and looking at interventions and learning loss and supporting students. We're really trying to do additional support in math. So we're looking at hands-on manipulative or materials and student consumables to support the math instruction that we're really focusing on K4. So that would be a significant increase to that. The next line is 106, which is physical education. Yeah, it's on there. Physical education. We have a new PE teacher this year. She's come in and kind of audited what our supplies are and really talking with her as far as what she'd like to do for programming. She really wants to work on team sports and allowing students to play at the same time. So like we have one set of goals, but we really don't want the kids to just be waiting for their turn so she can have consecutive games going on, which we really appreciate at recess that they are learning to play team sports. So she's very much supporting our social emotional goals. We very much appreciate that. The next line would be 108, which is supplies for literacy. Similarly, in line with our math, it's a lot of consumables. There's a lot of journals, reading journals, writing journals that are specific to our literacy collaborative work that we do, as well as chart paper and markers, and it pretty much all adds up to support the instruction in the classroom. Next line is 183, which would be 1100, 612. Okay. This is infrastructure. This is the same line we all received from Josh Berube. This is to replace access points. I think those were things that previously we were able to fund other places, and it would be putting it back currently in our replacement cycle for the infrastructure. Next line is 204. It would be books for literacy. We've done a lot of support through grants with that as well. We're looking at continuing building classroom libraries, new books, replacement. They get used every day, all day in the classroom. So making sure that we're able to keep up with the consumption in the classrooms. Next one is line 282. This one's new computer networking equipment. If you notice, it's a decrease. I just wanted to point that out because we were shifting that to the replacement cycle. When we sat down as a team to talk, we really feel like we're not adding anything new right now. We're really focusing on the replacement cycle. And when we get down there, you'll also see why we shifted it. The next line is line 293, which is replacement furniture and fixtures. We were able to do quite a bit through ESSER funds to help support the furniture in the classrooms. We are now looking at replacing rugs in grades 2 through 4. A few years ago, all the K1 got them, I think, right after the merge happened that first year. So those are all nice and new. Our grades 2 through 4, 5 years of a rug that the kids sit on every day for many hours a day is definitely something you would like to replace. So we're looking at supporting the bigger classroom, like meeting area rugs. Those are pretty expensive when you go to do the larger ones. And they are fire code.
Yes.
Absolutely fire code.
Josh will check the tag.
He saw that rug replacement. They're the fire code one. Okay. I know. Yeah. Line 307, replacement equipment computer, same boat as PA and TRS. That's a significant increase to keep up with the replacement cycle. We also shifted some of that new computer money into that line. So that's to make sure we're keeping up with our Chromebooks and switching out our older projectors that are end of life and things like that. We're moving to the touchscreen televisions, and they're on a cart, which for us is great because, as you'll hear eventually in our renovation, some classrooms only have one plug or maybe two, and you have to be able to move the equipment around. It's been a challenge for us to set up our learning environments when you are dedicated to a plug in a random corner of a room. This allows flexibility. So that's been something that we've been really appreciative of. Next line is 408, summer programming. These are sped lines as well. So it's a lot of the similar conversation you've already had. This one's just a decrease in our summer programming. So I just wanted to note that. The next line is 439 contracted services. That's a significant decrease. You'll kind of see as we go through some of the other lines, kind of where that might have shifted to. So next line is 463 summer placements. That was a significant increase for student support over the summer. The next line would be 469, which is our special placements. So you can kind of see the increase there. And if those three lines in combination, if you take a look at those. The next one to just take a look at is line 1403. Skip quite a bit to the end. Summer transportation. Yeah.
Hang on one sec.
Shift to the end. This is special education transportation over the summer for students to receive summer services. So I just wanted to point out the increase to that line. And then my last one, I guess I definitely had the shorter list today, was line 1411, special education transportation. Again, just pointing out the increase, the significant increase to that line as well. And that brings us down to Hill School.
Special education transportation within district, or is that including anybody that's?
It's including and to Jean's point, where we can't get into specifics,
Yeah.
I'm still going to ask Karen. She told me that the cost of transportation has skyrocketed, so I'm going to try to get I'm going to try to get a handle from her. Could you give me an example of a cost from 2 years ago versus now? Because we have so many companies that we're trying to get transportation from, and the costs are, we're paying for that.
But also if it was line 469, if outside placements increase, then the transportation costs are going to increase. Okay, any questions?
Overly identifying for us to get percentage increase of outplacement population for the special education students, like the population has increased by 500% or 200% or, the placements.
You're talking about a really small cell size. It would be identifying.
Sorry. Is there a way to find out, like, I'm just curious, the past 3 years, like a percentage, is there a percentage increase? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I want to help you,
like a
but
trend, you know what I'm
the-
saying?
the numbers are so small.
Yeah. Sorry.
I guess the increase in those numbers, like I know the number is small, but like, if it's if there's 10 one year and then 15, that kind of thing. If it's increasing and how it's increasing, just so we can see a trend, I guess.
Doubling.
Right.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it more than doubling? Is it less than doubling? Is it more than tripling? Is it less than tripling?
I will do my best to get you information, but if we're going from, if I say a placement is 220,000 and we went from 1 kid to 2 kids, oh gee, we know who the second kid was, and we, that's the kind of thing that you really want to be careful. So I'll try to get something from Karen that could give you some kind of a comparison without being identifying.
Yeah, I mean, I just speaking for myself, but I bet I'm speaking for the board. We respect the limit that you're talking about completely. But at the same time, it seems like there's room for at least like a skosh more information. So just trying to find that sweet spot.
It's just concerning. I think just looking at the increases in the special ed lines here, just on the things that we glossed over was like $1 million. So.
Thank you all for your initial hard work, and I'm confident it's not done. Last but not least.
Last but not least.
I would like to just say that the girls' soccer game was 1-1 with Bo with 5 minutes left, which means that the time stops there. If some of you may remember, we've been in this situation before. And I'm being told it's now 2-1 PA with 2 minutes left. So just to update the board. So to talk about my budget, I'm also I don't typically see the budget this way as well, but I'm going to try and venture off of what Wendy did and go column for a column. Some of the fixed costs I tend to do, and then some of the fixed costs Amber types in off of her numbers just to give you an update. So I'm going to start on my end going to road 1240 for the disposal service. And Patty, please correct me if I'm not speaking the right language.
Yeah,
I am the F
disposal.
true. So 1240 disposal service, we're going to be up $500 at the Hill School. On road 1242, we're going to be up $720 at the Three Rivers School. In road 1244, we're going to be up $3,500 at Pembroke Academy. Those are actual costs. We did just get our contract for the next 3 years with Casella. We priced this out with 3 companies. They are by far the cheapest, even though the price is up. The only difference with the price that could change are environmental fees and diesel surcharges, which are out there in our world. We do try and add a little bit to those based off of what we are paying currently per the month and go from there.
Excuse me. Does that include, do the schools recycle?
We do recycle. And actually in this day and age, recycling costs us more than if we had just trash
Yep.
bins. But we feel it's very important to keep that recycling program going.
And what about composting?
We don't compost.
And when was the last time that any composting options were investigated?
Personally, I haven't in my time.
Okay.
To be honest, I would be very concerned and very worried about the amount of work to get to that point, not to investigate what it would take, but to execute it, and then to make sure all the creatures and critters in that whole system is going the way it needs to. But I personally have never investigated it. To the next line, 1249, that's custodial supplies at the Hill School. So just generally, that's toilet paper, paper towel, soap, wax, just the general stuff we use daily. We increase that by $500. On line 1251 at Three Rivers, we did $500. And on line 1253 at PA, we did $1,450. Everything is up. Whether it's supplies or whether it's contractors. And we tended to go with a 5% rule, just to give you an understanding of where we came across those numbers.
Looks like we won.
PA won. We did, sorry for the interruption. The next line is natural gas. That $60,000 is a mistake. We will get the correct number for the next round of budget. That's line 1255. But for line 1258 and 1259, that's our wood chips natural gas. Wood chips were up $15 a ton. To put that in perspective, we've fluctuated up and down for the 10, 11 years we've had the wood chip plant. We've been as low as $39 to $40 a ton, which I believe was last year, to $55 this year. That $55 mark is what we paid the first year we had that wood chip plant. So we hadn't used what we allocated in those funds the last couple of years. So that $15 should equal $15,000, and we added $5,000 to each school for a total of $10,000. Moving on. We'll go to row 1270. This is contract repairs at Three Rivers. We added $150, that's 5%, and 1272 contract repairs at Pembroke Academy. We added $350, that should be 5%. Moving on to 1284 and 1286, we added 75 to each of those lines. That's a 5% number. And fast forwarding to 1313, we added $150 to the maintenance contracts of the Hill School. Row 1323, maintenance contracts to Pembroke Academy, we added $200. And the next three are my big increases. So these are the maintenance projects. These would be smaller scale, not necessarily CIP items or trust items, but sometimes could be looked at that way. I do always start by putting items into a project line when they're at this level and not the CIP level, and we move from there. So line 1328 is a total of $42,500, which is an increase of $17,500. In that line, we did remove the asbestos abatements that we've been doing yearly, and that was that $25,000 figure from last year and the years prior. Within that $42,500, we're looking to update server switches for our camera systems, fencing for the playground areas, door access controls to the main entrance vestibule and the kitchen exterior door, a Jace panel upgrade, which is our, for lack of better words, it's our server for our heating system that we have to have at the Hill School that allows us to see and control what we need to from our centralized heating computer. And it's also to add some walkie-talkies to their infrastructure down there. At Three Rivers School for maintenance projects, we didn't put anything in last year. This year, we're asking for $25,600. That's again for the switch. All three schools we will be asking for those throughout time. Just to give you history on that switch, we've robbed Josh Berube servers in switches, so we're trying to make up for borrowed time on that. It also involves a section of tree removal. You'll see this at PA as well. I would only put those in if it's outside of what we normally do. So do we have some money in our budget for tree removal? Yes, specifically if we haven't used it and an emergency happens, because that gets passed around per se. But this is a section at Three Rivers we know, and Pembroke Academy we know we probably should get rid of. This also has door access control for the kitchen at Three Rivers, an outdoor classroom for Three Rivers. So this would include some tables for outside of that new fitness area underneath a set of trees, which is really would be a good learning environment. And lastly, for some countertops in the bathrooms, the countertops are original to the building and are way past their useful life. Moving on to Pembroke Academy, this is row 1334. Last year we had $35,000. That was just for our asbestos abatements. Our abatements are up. We still would ask to carry that money in this line for Pembroke Academy. We're just not able to abate as much as we could with that same dollar figure, which just prolongs it and just extends it. We're not in danger. There's nothing wrong, but we're also not going to ask for the increase to do 4 rooms. We might only get 2 rooms per se. There's also a backflow preventer in this line. So a backflow preventer is our main water into the building. This is for the academic wing. That backflow is original to 1999. We have a history of fixing it, and it's time to replace it. Also new to this day and age, and Dr. Morris could talk more about this, but there's a line item in this maintenance project for vape sensors within the bathrooms. There's also repointing of some brick and some masonry here we need to do, a server switch for the system, some tree removal, some countertops in the bathrooms here, which are, again, as Three Rivers is, beyond useful life, and then multiply that by 2, and some AC replacements that we tend to ask for to get ahead of those.
There we go. I had a question on the AC replacements. Are they heat pumps?
They're window units.
Okay.
Moving on, we'll go to line 1340. That's heat repairs at the Hill School for 250. That should be an increase of 250. That should be 5%. Continuing on to 1344, which is plumbing and electrical repairs at the Hill School. That's 150. That's 5%. Moving forward to 1348, plumbing and electrical repairs to Pembroke Academy. That number should be 6825 and not 22,000. And that would be an increase of $375 for a total of 5%, and we will have that corrected for the next budget. Moving down to rows 1354, 1356, and 1359, that's our snow removal. We've added 2,000 to Hill, 2,000 to Three Rivers, which are priced pretty equally per storm, and a little bit more to Pembroke Academy. In my time, 8-9 years that I've been playing with the numbers, this is our first increase with a plow, and it's understandable. It's $150 a storm. It's understandable that it's happened, and truly it hasn't happened prior. So 8, 9 years, 7, 8 years, first increase. Fast forwarding to 1366, repairs to our contract services line. I call this our contract service line outside. So it's 1367. This is repairs to our tractors and our fleet and our moving equipment outside. For 250, that's a 5% increase. Next, 1369, exterior maintenance to Three Rivers. Oh, I'm sorry, I messed that last one up. Exterior maintenance to the Hill School was an increase of $250 on line 1367. Line 1369, it would be $625 at Three Rivers, and 1371 for PA for $950. Those are all our services that are provided outside. So that could be painting of the parking lots, cleaning of the catch basins, per se. Moving on, our grounds material line on 1373 is an increase of $175. Our grounds materials at 1375 is an increase of $250. Our 1378, our grounds materials for PA is an increase of $800. That's 5%. Lines 1380 is our parts and supplies for our. Yeah.
I had a question about the fields maintenance and
Yep.
the fertilizer.
Yep.
Can you just back in the envelope guesstimate about how much of that is the fertilizer?
Yeah, I mean fertilizer's way up, but
I mean, like half, like
it's not half.
Okay.
I would want to see my numbers, but it's not half.
okay, that's helpful.
A lot of our material line though is fertilizer and paint for those fields,
Okay,
and then
And-
you include stuff like beautification out there.
Yep.
Per se.
has the district ever considered organic turf management?
No, we haven't.
Okay.
And just to go on that line, we'll talk minor league baseball, and it's pretty impressive. The Fisher Cats are the only minor league baseball doing organic turf management, just to put that in perspective. And yes, it's phenomenal. And also on that, we don't do the pesticides. So any true pesticide other than a typical field fertilizer, we don't do at this point in time. It's cheaper, it's more cost effective, and quite honestly, it's safer to let the professional do it as opposed to what it would take for us to have someone licensed to maintain that and then to actually get it done. So moving on, 1380 equipment, parts, and supplies. So this is all the items that maintain that stuff. We're up 150, 5%. And lastly, gasoline is way up. We kind of tried to take our monthly bill and work off of that, and that was an increase of $500 for a total of $6,000. And that's it. I know that's kind of choppy. Please forgive me. Did my best off of reading off of this.
Delay. I had another question, which is, I think I saw the electricity costs are blank still. Yeah, who fills those in, and does the school district? What's the situation with the school district purchasing energy or purchasing from the default provider?
So Amber fills those in. That's just historically been one of the ones she fills in, and it's grayed out by the time I get it. We are locked into a contract that we did get in the height of COVID, so we did lock in very low. So we're not seeing as much of a spike right now. Unfortunately, we did miss a line. It was a account number. We have tons of account numbers for electricity. It was historically missed, and we didn't catch it till this year. And that's one of the bigger lines at PA. So we are going to see some sort of a spike with the fluctuation with that. But the majority of our gas and our electric lines were locked into through into 2024. So we're not seeing as much as we might be seeing at home per se.
Other questions?
Any questions for Josh? I have a question.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. So anywhere that there's a dash, there's going to be a number put in there. Where there's not going to be an increase, does it say $1?
Won't be a number everywhere there's a dash because we're zeroing out some lines. So if you see a line that has little to no, so let's go to line 284. Just because I pulled open to that one. If there's an actual of 0 and then a voted of $1, actual 0, voted of $1, we're going to zero those lines out because clearly we don't need them and we're not using them. And you have, if you have $1, you have to keep the line open. So if we zero it for 3 years, which is a pain, then we can delete the line. So that's what we're doing in some of those, but they're pretty easily identified because there's hardly any numbers in there over the past several years. Anywhere that there's historically numbers and now you see a blank, those will be numbers that Amber fills in.
Okay, that's what I was trying to understand.
Yeah.
That makes perfect.
Maybe a different way to get at the same question is, can you just remind us the timing of when we're going to get the completely filled in budget?
Sure. The goal is in 2 weeks. So Amber will be here in 2 weeks and she will go through a similar presentation and highlight the increases. She'll have all the principals have received the rosters to verify all the staff. It's gone back for correction, and so she'll populate the salary numbers. She'll give you her estimates for health insurance. Right now they're just estimates until we get the final numbers. So it should hopefully, unless there's a glitch or something's missing, be completely filled in 2 weeks. And then we will go through the revision process. So at this point, you know, sometimes we've come to you and said, okay, well, admin has gone through and cut a bunch of stuff. This year, some of it for for time saving purposes, we wanted to get this in your hands. So we haven't really gone through significant cuts to the budget. It's pretty much here's what we need, knowing that we're as a group we're gonna obviously there's some pretty significant increases without it even being filled in. So we'll go through that process and have to make some tough decisions with trust funds and cuts and all that.
I guess another way to say sort of the same thing too is looking at like, so if you go through, you'll find subtotals for sections like line 94, and those are pretty much worthless right now.
Yeah.
Because they're not adding everything up.
Can I just make a quick comment that I find kind of confusing? I get the dashed lines because salaries need to be put in there, but in some places in the document, the difference is left blank, but in some places it shows, oh, we're going to save $405,000. So if you look like in school resource officer and like the bus stuff, it's showing that it's a decrease of thousands of dollars. That's not true.
Right.
But in other places, we kept the little brown thing with no dollar amount. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of confusing.
Yeah. So Amber will, when she finished, this is a
Yeah.
really rough
That's
draft.
okay.
So she should fix all the formulas.
Yeah.
You'll see where the dashes are going to stay dashes are zeroed out and the differences and the
'Cause a couple
colors.
times
Yeah.
I was like, oh, we're not going to have that. Oh, we're not going to have that. But then in other places it was blank.
Yeah. It's because she hasn't gone through it. Yeah. But that's the kind of detailed review we need because there's so many lines in here. Once she does fill it in, if you find those things, speak up so that we can have it as clean as possible the next go around.
I want to remind you that I will not be here on the 15th. I'm at a conference. But I will, hopefully it will be able to be recorded
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
want to go through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for anybody, I guess, obviously, you know, not breaking meeting rules and having more than 3 of us at the same time. We have sort of broken off before and done. I know Gene's come over to my house, and we've during COVID when we did it in the garage with masks on, and like over the next couple of months, if you want to deep dive, we can, team up and dive into some sections and whatever we need to do. It was.
And any support that we can give you, if you're struggling, please call me. I don't mind walking through when it's new. I still have a hard time sometimes, and I've been doing this for a long time. So there are a lot of account lines and a lot to figure out. So
Can I make an ask for next time? And I know that you're all very busy with this stuff, so I don't think it's big. I would like to get a sense of or put some attention on rate of pay for our non-union our non-paras, not teachers, but like custodial, kitchen, stuff like that. I'm concerned that those numbers are not going up and that we're losing people.
when we go through the salary increases, we will review that. I'm not sure that Amber will have those charts done for the next time, but I do know we've spoken to the food service director and she has a proposal because those salaries are extremely low. Last year, we did make a concerted effort to do some increases. Front office staff, they were kind of all over the place, support staff in the schools. And also Josh's custodians need to be looked at. So we are working on that. I don't know if
Okay.
it'll be here in 2 weeks, but it's a priority for
That's
us.
okay. As long as it's on the radar.
Yeah.
I share that concern.
Mm.
I think just to say out loud, the value of retention is very large.
Okay. Any other questions, comments on the budget information that we've received tonight? Not that it wasn't enough.
Yes, I have an additional comment, which is it's a very impressive presentation that I think furthers the excellence in our school district, and I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, and another
would
thanks
agree.
to all the administrators and Josh. I know that the MBC loves to see the notes that are in here, so that's always helpful. And yeah, hopefully we can have a productive season. I think it's going to be obviously a tough year with inflation and everything else that's going on. So as much information and we can be upfront and transparent and ask for what we need. It's good. Okay, so it being 8:30, do we want to skip 8C for now and try to get some policy done, or what? Okay.
Oh.
I think it was 9. I think it's 9. Pretty sure 9 is the.
I would like us to make at least this much project. Did I miss the board goals document in our drive?
There's a separate folder for goals.
I think she put it there after the last meeting. Your drive is, I don't know. It's like ghosts in your.
Yeah, so I mean, we can certainly open up if there's any. I didn't plan anything to discuss for board goals tonight, only partly because presenting a budget that helps the students and the kids is one of those things, and that was kind of the focus of the night. So that's kind of where I left it. But if anybody has input on that topic, we can.
I think to a certain extent, we might want to consider how much. So I'm a big believer in like not letting the good enough get in, or not letting the perfect get in the way of the good enough. And maybe we should just kind of like be open to running a little bit with what we have and not I mean, if we have time at some time to fill in objectives, that would be wonderful. I'm all for that. I'm not saying we should give up on that. But I think that we just worked on goal 1, the Pembroke School Board will prepare a responsible student first budget, blah, blah, blah. And so it begs the question to me now, looking at a cell in this Excel document for November 2022 update. So whose job now is it to type something in that? Are we asking Sandy to do something with that? Are one of, I'm like, I don't even want to say it out loud, Sandy. So at least if we can kind of make some process progress tonight and figure out like, how are we doing this?
Well, not to volunteer people,
I was gonna say,
but Stacy and Melanie sort of came up with the, if one of you wants to at least give it a shot, and then we can kind of talk about it next time and to see if everybody's happy with the types of comments that were provided, or if we want more or less or whatever.
I'm happy to take a shot at that.
That would be great.
Okay.
Because I've been in meetings since 4, so that would be awesome. Thank you.
I think I just figured it out.
Awesome. And I'm satisfied with that if that's all we do for tonight. I feel real strongly that we should just at least touch on this,
Sure.
Yeah.
Could we do
Seems to
like
me.
Andy, could we do like this thing keeps going down. Can we do like a time limit? Like we'll spend like 6-7 minutes and just run through them and add some notes or something, just so Jean and I can quickly give a brief overview of those and we still have a non-public, just so it doesn't go too long.
Policy.
The policy.
Can we?
Go ahead, Jean. I don't
I thought I was losing my mind because I went into the policy and I believe we already discussed everything previously.
We did take a
And then
look at them last time.
Melanie,
2 times ago.
I called Melanie. I asked her if I was indeed losing my mind, and she said, no, we did talk about these already. So I think they should be on like a second reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ashley was feeling badly that she didn't get the updates and the references off, so she wasn't sure if she should move them forward. But I agree with you that since they were brought up. Awesome, thank you. So yeah, we can make note in the minutes that the policies were actually on a second reading, and next time they'll be on a third.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Sounds good. Sure. Yeah, I mean they can sit. Yeah, if I would say if there's minor things, get rid of these guys, and if we have time next time, depending on how the broader budget discussion goes, we can take action on things. But if you have ones that you have particular concerns on, they can sit another meeting, and so that you can be here and express your concerns.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're on to number 10, but I want to make sure everybody's on board with that first. Okay. So number 10 is our next public comment section. So we've got another 15 minutes if there's anybody here. I think our only guest left. So we'll move on. Number 11, I don't think we have any informational.
I do.
Oh, okay.
Quick, we are having some significant issues with our steamer unit at Pembroke Academy. I know Josh is aware, and our new food service director is aware that she will need to get 3 quotes on that. But once that comes, we'll need to decide if we're going to take that out of the budget or out of the equipment trust fund. And information will be forthcoming. I just didn't want it to surprise you.
Thank you. So that brings us to number 12. So the board has need to go into non-public session in accordance with New Hampshire RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, small letter C, which is matters which if discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the board. On a roll call vote to enter non-public at 8:35 p.m. Stacy. Amy?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. We'll take a second, lock the meeting, kick folks out.
PTA cafeteria.